All right, and we are live, Carrisa. Welcome, namaste, assalamu alaikum, sat sri akal, durud, salam, shalom, and greetings from India. A warm
Thank
welcome
you.
to you on the
Greetings.
Author Experience podcast. We do this every Sunday. We are in season 6 now, and we are overwhelmed to have you on our podcast today because yours is a very interesting story, and I look forward to listening more about your story. But to tell you a little about the experience that we started, and I'll just kind of take some time to set up the slides. We started this during the first lockdown in 2020, where we decided to do the author experience podcast, as we call it. And like you, we've had several authors, over 100 now from around the world. And last in this year, we've done season 5, and we are now in season 6. We started season 5 with Bishop Ria. Bishop Ria is from Palestine, an original inhabitant of Palestine, and he wrote this book called Caught in Between. Bishop Ria is also the person who facilitated the 1992 Oslo Peace Accord between Israel and Palestine. And that, since you're from the United States of America and you're based in Arizona, I would like to ask you, what are your thoughts about what is happening in Palestine right now? The genocides that are being committed by Israel, which is also being backed by the United States of America. And of course, you have many Americans like Noam Chomsky speaking against it. But what are your thoughts, if any, on this?
Uh, I I'm just in awe, and I don't understand um, why a lot of this is happening. Um, I really really wish that there was some way. I mean, it really is like we can send a man to the moon, but we can't figure out how to be at peace. We can't, figure out how to come together as one unit and everybody be able to live lives that are worthy. I'm not understanding it. It baffles me. And it hurts my heart to see the things that are going on. It really does. It, it's it shouldn't be happening. It's inhumane to me. And I don't really do politics. I don't, but and I just don't like what I see because I know it shouldn't be happening because we're all under one nation, under one God, but yet we treat each other in each country as if you don't belong.
True.
I don't like
And,
it.
and I like what you're saying because I spoke at a school around 2 months ago, and what was happening in Palestine now, what is happening in Palestine now was happening back then also 2 months ago. And it was the investiture ceremony of the school where all the student leaders who had been elected as captains and vice captains and house captains were taking their oath. And towards the end of their oath, they kept saying that we'll keep the flag of our school and the flag of our nation flying high. And when I started my talk, I couldn't help but say that, forget the flag of the school and the flag of the nation, because most
Mhm.
nations are man made, most borders are man made. What about keeping the flag of humanity flying high, which is not flying high at all today? It's flying at half mast or maybe below mast. And I'm happy that many Americans like Noam Chomsky, Norman Finkelstein are taking hard stands against what is happening
Mhm.
in Palestine. And thank you for sharing your thoughts on that.
You're
Uh,
welcome. You're welcome.
Yes. And coming back to the PowerPoint, so we've had several before you. We've last week we had Robert Hamilton Owens, who's also from the United States of America. Uh, Robert has an interesting story, and he was also molested at a young age by senior students in his school when he was in class 7. But at the age of 72 now, he has been branded as the fittest and mentally toughest 66-year-old or 6 years ago, is now 72 years old. And before that, we had Matt Friedman, who is working on the burning issue of human slavery and trafficking, along with his wife, Sylvia Wu Friedman. And of course, in season 5, we had Marina Lazarus, who works with men to help them to find true romance and, or keep their emotional and mental health healthy. And before that, we had a hero from India called Major General Ian Cardozo, who is a war hero who cut his own leg in the Bangladesh war and then fought another war with an artificial leg. And of course, we had Rusty Labushkagne, who was from Zimbabwe, who was falsely accused of murder and has spent over a decade in prison. And after coming
Wow.
out now, he through his story tries to heal people, and listening to his story and listening to Rusty speak is very therapeutic. And of course, we have Sanjay. We had Sanjay Jha before that, who's a politician from India. India is in the midst of the political election fever right now, and we are hoping that we get a government which is more secular, and if not completely secular, more secular than the current one, because the current government seems to be thriving on creating
Mhm,
discrimination and division between people in India. So
mhm.
that's what we do, and we are very happy to have you with us, Carissa. And I
Thank
can see that
you.
you're also the founder of the Give Me Freedom Ministries, and I would love to know more about that. Uh, so, uh,
Okay.
so like we were talking before we went live, we at the Author Experience podcast, we like to keep this raw and real. We don't
Okay.
like it rehearsed. We don't like it to be kind of something where people come and tell their story in a animated, well rehearsed way. We want you to just speak your heart, speak your mind, and let the spirit evolve, so that
Yes.
people's souls can be stirred and people can be inspired to understand uh, from your story that at life, at many points and more, we break. But when we break, if we give up and break down, game over. But if we refuse to break down and persevere to break through, then game on, bring it on. And I think, Carissa, you have lived that. You have gone through many breaks in your life, but I can see that you have broken through.
Yes,
So over to you,
absolutely.
Carissa. We have the next 10 minutes for you. Please tell us the story of your life and your life journey from childhood to now. And the virtual stage is all yours. You have 10 minutes, 9 to 10 minutes, but take your time. Over to you.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on this platform. It is such a pleasure for me. I'm honored to be chosen amongst such phenomenal people, um, such greatness. I'm really elated right now. So I was born in Tennessee. I lived in a rural area within the state. My family was all birthed from my grandfather, who was a Baptist preacher. Um, and so we went to church a lot. I went to church a lot growing up as a child. And for the most part, I think that my life as a child before I was introduced to some things that I should never have been introduced to was great. My grandmother was the best cook this side of heaven. I we all just loved her cooking, and there was like nothing's like grandma's cooking, nothing. So she was the best cook to me, and they're now going on to be with the Lord, and so the matriarchs of the family no longer exist. My mom is the oldest of her siblings, which makes me the oldest granddaughter and a grandchild. Um, I grew up in Missouri and Tennessee. So my family is from Tennessee, but my mother moved us to Missouri. And I grew up in both places. And back then, times were simple. We didn't have to worry about not making it home. We didn't have to worry about um being abducted, or when one got in trouble, everybody got in trouble. We came up in a time where it took a village to raise us, and they did. Because trust me, if you got in trouble out there in school, or in the public, by the time you got home, you were in trouble. They already knew. So it's not like it is now today growing up, where you better not touch my child. It's nothing like that. And I think that is missing in today's society. It's missing. It is the root to growth and morals and values and because that part of our raising is missing, our younger generation are perishing. And so um I grew up in a loving family. We hung out together. We ate. We made sure that everybody was okay. And then disaster struck, and we ended up losing my grandfather. And I was devastated behind that. Um, I'm gonna go back and start some start over with, well, not start over, but just mention, because I mentioned how my life began to change as a result of being introduced to sexual encounters that a child of my age, I couldn't have been no more than 5 or 6, should have never been introduced to. But being that I was introduced to that type of activity, I also learned how to mask my feelings and how to be quiet and how to keep secrets. So then once my grandfather passed away, it was just like my world completely changed. And it did. Um, I'm not going to tell you that it changed for the better, because it didn't. There were so many things that happened in my life as a child coming up to the age that I am now that stem from things that happened when I was too young to even know what that meant. So I went through life, I wasn't living life. I literally was existing in life. And that's a difference. That's a difference between living and existing. You know, living life means that you are making purposeful strides. You know what it is you want and what it takes to get there. You know who you are, and you refuse to allow anybody to taint that or take that away from you. But when you're existing in life as I was, you're oblivious. You have no direction. You have no purpose. I really didn't think I had a purpose at all until um I learned not too long ago that I wasn't even supposed to be born at all. Like, I was literally supposed to have been aborted. And then I thought about the time that I fell out of my grandmother's car, and I was that could have killed me. She was milliliters away from running over my head. And at that point I realized that greatness had to be on me for the enemy to be trying to kill me at such a young age. You understand? So that didn't change anything at the moment. It didn't, because I continued, down the road of drugs and alcohol, and um I lived a life of lies and deceit, and jumping from situationship to situationship, and I call them situationships because none of them were really relationships. And then I, went from the situationship because at the time it's like I didn't have any morals or respect or decency as to what was right and what was wrong, even though I knew right from wrong at the time. I just didn't care because I was conditioned not to care, not to know what love really was. And I went from, you know, situationship to toxic relationship after relationship, and high class prostitution, detachment, domestic abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, upline poverty. And when I say upline poverty, I call it that because now that I'm older and I've seen what poverty really is, I realize I wasn't in any poverty. I just was misfortunate, you know. So I was literally moving around inside of an imaginary bubble, going nowhere fast. I lived here, I lived there, I lived nowhere. Um, and then I brought three beautiful children who are very dear to me, but I brought them into this world under a falsehood of what life is supposed to be based on the information that I was willing to receive at the time. And then one day I just started feeling suffocated. And, I realized that, there's got to be more. There's got to be more than this. And I one day just pressed my face against the imaginary bubble to see people out living and thriving and being happy and successful and smart and knowledgeable, maximizing their lives as God intended for us to maximize our lives. And I wanted to be a part of that. I mean, I did. I wanted to be a part of that because from where I was sitting, I was dying. I was living, but withering away, dying. And I just wanted to get out. So I had a decision to make. I either am going to stay in this bubble and remain in this bubble and die, or I'm going to burst out of this bubble and live. I chose to live. So here I am outside of the bubble. And even though I bursted out of the bubble, there was still confusion. I was still wandering in the wilderness. I was still trying to figure out who I am. I was still trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to meet? Where am I supposed to be? What am I really doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I told God, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I met my husband that I'm married to now, which before I turned 50, because we've been married for about 8 years. Yes, 8 years, and getting and together for 10, just about. And I'm still going through all of these things emotionally and physically and emotionally with him. But when I met him, I thought that I was whole. I thought that I was complete. But when the honeymoon phase was over, I realized that I was still malfunctioning, that he could not fix me, that being his wife was not going to fix me, that meeting him was not fixing me. And I was still malfunctioning, and I was still scrambling around trying to find my vision and try to learn how to walk again, how to talk, how to feel, how to think, how to feed myself all over again, as if I was just born. And this is not naturally, but physically, emotionally, mentally. I was still scrambling. I didn't understand what I was supposed to be doing until one day recently. And I mean recently, like Jerry, recently, God spoke and he said, stop. Just stop. Stop trying to figure out what you have no clue about. Stop trying to reach something that is outside of your grasp and just let me do it. So I dethroned my husband as God of my life, the with the little G, not the big G. And I decided to allow God to be King of Kings. And here I am sitting before you on a platform with you that I never thought that I would reach, although God had showed me this and then some. But I just never believed that I deserved it. And so now this door is opening for me, and greatness is in my face, and I'm just in awe. I saw this. I'm a seer. I was blessed, you know, dreams and visions. God gave me that. I was blessed with that as a young age. And so God showed me the choice to be successful or to continue to um, live a life of death and destruction. I saw big checks in my hand. I saw limousines driving up to my house to pick me up. I saw all of this. I just didn't believe that I deserved it. So here I am before you, and I thank you for choosing me. I thank you for being obedient and allowing the Spirit to choose me. I thank you for that. I do.
Thank you, Carissa, for sharing your story with absolute candor and integrity, and I really appreciate that. Thank you for you know opening up your soul and giving us a peek into your life journey and your story. And thank you for sharing that. And
You're
warm
welcome.
welcome to all the people watching us on Facebook Live. And I'm sure that your story has moved them and inspired them to understand that uh, you've gone through so many breaks, but you refuse to break down, and that we can all do it too. Right from uh, probably being aborted, where you would never have come into this world at all, to being
Yeah.
to going through your trials with sexual encounters as a child,
Yes.
or the hate from people in the family. Like you said, you've been fighting and battling the enemy always. And
Always.
one of the things that you said is you went through your trials, you went through your days of depression, drunkenness, and everything, and trying to figure out
Oh my.
who you are. Whenever I ask this question, who are you? Who am I? Most people, and I'm talking about people I work with in the corporate sector as a corporate coach and a trainer and a motivational speaker. Most people find it very difficult to answer this question, which
Yeah.
includes people who are in CEO positions, chairman positions, because they never go deep into this question. They are just their title or their designation or their position or their
Mm.
stature. They are not fully aware of who they are truly as an individual. So I want to ask you, have you been able to discover, because like Dr. Viktor Frankl says in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, a human being cannot invent himself or invent her or his purpose, right? You can only discover it. You can detect who you are and detect your purpose. So have you been able to detect and discover that?
Wow. That is a great question. Thank you for asking that, because I struggled with this discovery for a lot of years, even up until recently. Um, I tried so many things. I was interested in this, and I was interested in that, and I tried uh doing real estate. I tried, getting into insurance. I tried the work from home thing. I tried so many things because I was searching for my identity and who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing and who I'm called to be. And I was struggling so much so, Jerry, to the point where I was desperately just reaching out for God to just like, God, look. I got to the point where I said this out loud, seriously. I told God, I said, you know what, God, I don't want to hear no more about you telling me that how great I am, I don't want you to tell me, that I'm worthy and I want you to tell me what I'm supposed to do with all this greatness. I know that I'm a great person. I know that there's greatness in me, but God, I want you to tell me exactly what you want me to do with this greatness. Don't tell me no more that I'm a child of God. I started telling people this. Don't tell me anymore about the greatness that is on my life. Don't tell me that no more. Just tell me what I'm supposed to do with it. And then it happened. And when I say it happened, I mean it has recently, literally just happened. It's a couple of weeks ago. It happened that I discovered exactly who I am. All of this time, I was scrambling and scuffling and putting on clothes that weren't mine, taking on identities that didn't belong to me, trying to find me and my identity. And it happened. Pentecost Sunday, when I say to you that I've always heard of Pentecost, I've read about Pentecost, but I never had an encounter with Pentecost until May 19th. May 19th, 2024, I discovered exactly who I am. I know now how to use my greatness. And the only way that you can do that is through surrender. I finally stopped trying to figure it out and just move as I'm directed by the Spirit. Just move. And now I know that nothing can stop me. Now I know that I am limitless. Now I know that there is nothing, absolutely nothing that I can't go to my Heavenly Father for and get. That's why I'm here, because I discovered who I am.
Very nice. Excellent. I'm so happy to hear that because that's a zillion dollar industry, like I say. One small question: who am I? But most people can't answer it. And that's why they are always seeking and joy, following some gurus or some godmen. And I always say that, who you are is deep within you. and
Yes,
uh, and if there is any god, that god is within you, because
yes,
earlier you spoke about right and wrong, and a lot of people in the world ask this question: how do you decide what is right and wrong? And I'm like,
mhm,
if you don't have a sense of what is right and wrong, then how are you different from all the other animals? Because the only one gift that you were given as a human being is the gift of rationalizing and reasoning what is right and wrong. And if you
yes,
can't understand that, then what is the difference between you or a germ and a worm? And I think
yes.
worms and germs are better. I must at this point confess with you, Carissa, that I'm a non-believer. I'm an atheist, and
Okay.
if I keep having authors like you who are huge believers, I might transform into a believer too. But that but therein lies the occupational hazard of doing this
Rabbit.
podcast. But that said, you know. Uh, one of the things I read on your publisher's website is that the reason you decided to write the book is to inspire more people to stay strong and to stay solid like you.
Yes,
That
yes,
the trials and triumphs are a part of life, right?
yes,
And at the same time, you know like you said, that you discovered who you are. recently in May 2024 because of the Pentecost, right? Do you think that this is actually a feeling that comes from within you? Because, I mean, we can call it the Holy Spirit and the Pentecost and so on. But finally, like I always say, the concept of spiritual basically is about the human spirit, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
human spirit is very
Mm-hmm.
powerful that, if you want to, you can move mountains. And I don't say
Yes,
this because it's a parable or a fable or a fairy tale. I have met the man who moved a
it's true.
mountain. He actually inspired me to on my journey of writing books of real heroes. So
Mm-hmm.
this
It's
one
true.
man who was 5 feet 2 inches, atheists like me from a very, very underserved community in India, moved an entire mountain with a hammer and a chisel, right? One
Uh-huh.
hammer, one
Mm-hmm.
chisel. His name is,
Mm-hmm.
I say is because he's a legend who will never die. His name is
Okay.
Dashrath Manji. Yeah, there's a movie made on him now. But do you think when you
Okay.
discovered this, who you are and what you truly want to do, what is your calling? Do you think
Mm-hmm.
this also happened because of deep introspection and reflection that you may have been doing for a long time?
I absolutely do. Because let me be clear, we are spirit. That's what we are. We are flesh and blood, but we are spirit.
Yes, and there's this very old
And
saying, I forget the person who said this, who said that we are not human beings on a divine journey, but we are divine beings on a human journey.
on a human journey.
Yeah,
So to answer your question, I absolutely do believe that because it is an inward change for outwardly visual seeing. You have to be able to connect with who you are within because greatness is within. And until you tap into that greatness within, there is absolutely no way, no how, no shape, form, or fashion. And I don't care if you're a Buddhist, a Hinduist, an atheist, I don't care what you are, you will never reach your full potential unless you connect within, unless you figure it out within. Because whatever is inside of you will reflect on the outside. It'll
very
show on the
nice.
outside. So
Absolutely,
if
and I completely agree with you, Carissa, because I've done this talk long back. It's something I start every program with. You must have seen I started with Namaste, and when you go deeper into the meaning of the word Namaste, which is a gesture which was created centuries ago in this part of the world, which is the Asian part of the world, Eastern wisdom, I call it. And
Mhm.
basically, again, when you bend down like that, it teaches you to surrender, right? It teaches you to
Absolutely.
surrender to the powers of the universe and the forces of nature. And it also teaches you to understand that the God is in you and me. So
Yes.
it's like saying I respect the God in you, right? Because the God is in you
Yes.
and me. And then you salute the
Yes.
divine power in each other. That's what you do when you
Yes.
say namaste, or you do Ubuntu, or you say Savadika in Thailand, right? and
Yes.
uh,
Right. Right.
and then that you and I are blessed with divine power, and you and I have unlimited, because I heard you somewhere saying I'm limitless, because you and I have
Limitless.
unlimited potential, that if you and I
Yes.
wish to, we can move a mountain. So it's not God moving mountains or faith moving mountains, it's you and I moving mountains. And I connect
Yes.
this again with Dr. Viktor Frankl's book Man's Search for Meaning, where he says you cannot invent yourself or invent your purpose, or the meaning of your life. You have to discover it, you have to detect it. And to discover it and detect it, for some it happens at a young age, for some it happens later. For you it happened in
Yes.
2024, and I did hear somewhere that you said you crossed the threshold of 50. For I also crossed the threshold of 50 years. I'm going to turn 54 this year. But for me it happened at an early age, and like you,
Yes.
I was escaping from life too, because I had gone through my trials and tribulations. But the fact of the matter is that, the truth be told, we all need to figure out what are the choices we make,
Yes.
failing which we keep blaming others for everything that is going wrong in our life. In psychological
Yes.
studies, it is called the victim mindset. So tell us a little about your book, Carissa.
So the book, um,
I know you wrote it because you want to inspire several other people like you who break, to remain unbroken and remain unbreakable, right? And refuse to break down. So
right.
tell us a little more about the book. Yeah.
So here's the truth behind that truth. There's always layers, I mean, there's always layers that you have to go through. But when God spoke somewhere around the mid 1990s, I think, and said, "You will write a book." I thought, I know he ain't talking about me because I don't even like doing tedious things, and writing a book is a tedious job. And so I know that God, you can't be speaking to me about writing a book. so, so I mean, and I laugh now because I and I was so headstrong, and I'm still a little bit headstrong. Like I still have to struggle with that right now. But this book was my road to freedom. Even though
Was it your road to freedom, or but also was it also your road to redemption?
it was my road to redemption.
Because writing a book and writing anything, even a journal, is highly therapeutic.
It is very, very therapeutic. And so when I began writing this book, I I literally asked for permission to be me,
Right.
to 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 capture the very essence of my personality, of my charm, of my wit, of my character. So this book, even though it is a true story, is funny. There are some very comical things throughout the entire book. There are some aha moments in the book. There are some embarrassing, shameful moments in the book, but yet there is redemption and freedom in the book. So the book is written in a way that whatever it is that you need, whatever it is that you're looking for, you'll find it in this book. So a lot of people's like, "Oh, did you put me in the book? Did you put my name in the book? Did you do this? Did it?" Well, all I can tell you is you got to get the book in order to know if your name is in the book. But I was also smart enough to know not to call names and name names and change names because number one, nobody's getting glory out of this book. You're not getting any royalties because it took me a lifetime, what seems to be a lifetime, to put this book together.
Very nice. Excellent. So we'll talk about your book writing journey later on as a small tutorial for students who will also be watching this conversation later as a part of their journey to learn how to write books. I can see that your partner Aaron has joined us on Facebook and has written over there that I'm there with you, baby. So tell us a little more about your relationship now, not a situationship anymore. It's a relationship with Aaron. Tell us a little more about that.
Within it is that is my husband. And if I drop a tear, I'm sorry, but this is a real live situation and this is not scripted. My
And
husband
and and feel free. I always say crying is good for the soul. It cleanses the soul. So go ahead, drop a tear or
is
two.
the true definition of my true love. People use the term the love of my life so loosely. They use that term as if you're given 20 loves of your life. When the truth of the matter is, if you're lucky, you only find one true love. You could have plenty loves, but a true love is someone that that can't be replaced. A true love is someone who receives your unconditional love. A true love is someone who receives your loyalty and your commitment and your faithfulness, no matter what kind of storms that you weather. That is your true love. And I've had many loves before, but my husband is my true love. He's my best friend in the whole world. He has caused me some pain, Lord knows he has. But I loved him and I loved him through it. And I love him still even the more through it. There were times where I thought that I had fallen out of love with him. But then when I think about him, he still makes my heart beat. He still gives me butterflies. He still makes me feel like there is no other woman on this earth but me. He still makes me smile. We've weathered a lot of storms together, and we're still here. A lot of people counted us out, but can't nobody and nothing separate what was meant to be. And we were meant to be. We're in two totally different states right now. But my heart is still with that man. My loyalty is still with that man. My
And
faithfulness is still
and
with that man.
very, very nice. And thank you for sharing that. And I know Aaron is watching, and Aaron sent you a nice message on Facebook. He says, "I'm here, baby, with you 100%. Support, baby. I'm so very proud of you." That's Aaron. Okay, I'm not calling you baby. All right, Carissa. Okay, Carissa, we had mailed you about the Magnificent Seven, and your story indeed is very, very powerful and very, very compelling, very, very inspiring also. And we would like to include you as a part of the Magnificent Seven, storytelling experience. We've been doing this for 10 years in several organizations around the world. And this is based on the premise that in life, at some and many points and more, we all break.
We
Something can
all break.
happen. We break emotionally, we break mentally, we break
We all
physically,
break.
we break spiritually. The human spirit goes dead, or we break
Yes,
morally, we do something wrong, and we all human beings, we make our mistakes. Yeah. But
yes,
when we break, if we give up and break down, game over. But if
it's
we
over.
persevere and break through, game on, bring it on. And I'm going to show you the
Yes,
video, and I would like you to like to invite you formally to be a part of this. Uh,
yes,
and we would love to have you, because after 10 years of doing this in corporate events, we are going to the public this year, where we are planning hybrid events which will have an on-ground and an online audience. Yeah, and I'll tell you a
yes.
little more about that later, but let's watch this. I'm going to show you a
Okay,
small the intro video we had put together 10 years ago. We are revising this video now, which should be ready within this month. Everyone tries to avoid suffering without realizing that suffering and pain brings out the best version of you, brings out a better version of you, helps you to
yes,
sharpen your saw, helps you to sharpen your axe and become
yes,
much better. And passion
yes,
actually means suffering.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
So it's about
Wow.
celebrating the hero in each of us.
Yes. Oh wow. I love it. This is so amazing. This is so amazing. I am so honored.
So as you can see, Carissa, that we've brought in, we've curated people from around the world. We started with seven very ordinary, unsung people 10 years ago in 2014, when we first put this concept out there to to go and share the storytelling experience with the audience in corporate events and conferences by BNI, Toastmasters, Rotary, Lions, you name the organization, we work with them. And after telling the story, we kind of, I interlocute and moderate, facilitate insights from the audience about what did they learn. And you can see there are people from the LGBTQIA, now called now
Yeah.
2S LGBTQIA community, that we are all human beings and we
Yes.
are vulnerable. And, it's called the Mojosh Magnificent Seven because Mojosh is the name I've coined of two words, which are Mojo, which is a Swahili or an African word, which talks about the inner fire, the everlasting audacious spirit,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
proactive positive energy and potential that we all carry. And
Mm-hmm.
Josh is an Indian word which talks about happiness, zealous excitement, creative enthusiasm to unleash that potential and power, right? And inspirator is that, so there are two words that I've coined: Mojosh, which is a combination of mojo and josh, and inspirator, which is like the breathtaking, the life-saving, breathalyzer
Yes.
device, right?
Yes.
That
Yes.
when we
Yes.
inspire others to become more, we also rise and become more. So
Yes.
that's what we put together, and I
I
would like
love it.
to invite you to be a part of this. It's
I love it.
we're going live this year. We've been working on this for the past 4 years, and the whole idea is to tell people that we are ordinary people like you, very broken, but we refuse to break down because we are
Yes.
unshakable, unbreakable, and unstoppable. And
Unstoppable.
our
I
values are
love it.
thrive, which is about understanding how we can transform ourselves, like how you have transformed yourself from your days as a victim to becoming a victor, and humor,
Yes.
that we learn to laugh at our own situation, resilience, because without resilience you're not going anywhere, right?
No.
We refuse to break down. We won't break no matter what happens to us. And the initiative to bring about that change and the vulnerability to understand that I need to surrender, the Stoic philosophy of many things, circumstances, situations are not in our hand. But
Yeah.
how we respond to that situation or that circumstance is surely in our hand. And
That part.
that's where we need energy and creative excitement to go beyond and go
Yes.
for extraordinary. So,
That part.
we have curated several people from around the world, and I take this opportunity to welcome you to be a part of the Mojo
Thank you.
Magnificent Seven. We would love to
Thank
have you
you. I'm
in that
honored. Thank
storytelling
you.
event, which is going to reach out to several people who will be attending on ground and online. So it's a hybrid event.
I'm honored. I'm honored. I love how you said that. You said just then that we if you if you break, then it's then game over.
Right.
I love that because that was the one thing that I refused to do. No matter what I was going through, I refused to break, even though I was broken. I refused to stay there. That's the key. Is you can't stay there. You have to
Very true.
push yourself up. I love it. I love it. I'm
Very
so
true.
honored.
And Carissa, if you can see the screen, like I said, it covers emotional, mental, spiritual, physical, and moral intelligence. So we also
Yes.
have many people who were narcotics traffickers, gangsters, murderers, criminals who are now reformed and are helping others to reform. So we've gone out
I
of our
love it.
way. We've curated stories from the world over, and that's the Mojo's Inspirator learning framework. I wouldn't just call it a learning framework. I would call it the path of life, the way of life, the way of living a life. And if you see right here,
Yeah.
the trigger, the trigger principle is vulnerability. You know, it's only when you understand your vulnerability, only when you understand your vulnerability, that you can truly unleash powers. And many people don't understand this. But I heard you say the word surrender. So do you want to unpack vulnerability for us?
Surrender, the word that, yes, it means to release yourself, release what you think that is working for, release the resistance, release all of those old, ancient, antique antics and antidotes that we we were taught. Release those things, release those ways that we were learned. We have to unlearn some things, and we have to stop thinking that we can do it all by ourselves. We have to stop being our own, trying to be Superman for everything and in every situation. When you see you're only making matters worse, but you refuse to surrender your will for a will that is higher than you could ever think or imagine, so that you can become who you were always meant to be. Is surrendering. It's
Absolutely, and
giving up.
and I think the bigger learning over here is to surrender your ego, surrender your
Yes.
arrogance, because what most people don't understand, which I discussed also with Robert Hamilton Owens last week, who has a journey very similar to yours, where he was also abused at a young age, and he's now considered to be the most mentally toughest and fittest man in the world at the age of 72. But I think the idea is to understand that free will, finally, to make that choice to go on the right path,
Hmm.
rests with us,
Absolutely.
because nobody else can make that choice for us, because it is not a god or a heaven that makes our destiny. You and I create our
You.
destiny. You and I create my own destiny, you create your own destiny. There is
It's a
no
choice.
fate, there is no luck, there is no pre-written fatalistic kind of fate which has been written for us. It's the choices we make that creates our destiny. I would like to leave that behind with all our viewers on Facebook Live. And finally, coming to the storytelling tutorial, Carissa, this particular video and conversation will be watched by a lot of people in schools, a lot of students in schools who aspire to be writers. And like I always say, to be a good writer, you need to be a good reader. But we had shared the storytelling tutorial with you earlier. You know, most storytellers, many authors used Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey to write the story, because every story has a hero, a victim, and a villain, right? And then, of
Yes.
course, you have
Yes.
a plot, you have characters, you have the world, and you have the language, and of course,
Right.
the context, circumstance, complication, change, which actually, you know, if you come back to the hero's journey, there's the ordinary world. You know, this is Harper Lee also used the hero's journey to create her book called To Kill a Mockingbird. There's ordinary
Yeah.
world, there's a call to adventure, which is calling a Carissa or a or a Jerry, or Carrie or
Yeah.
Jerry. And then, you know, initial, there's a refusal, there's denial, and then you have somebody who guides you to say, why don't you take that step, why don't you cross that threshold? And then, of course, you test your
Mhm.
allies and your enemies, you create an approach, and you know, that's your path. So do you want to share with us about what is the process that you employed when you finally decided that you're going to write a book, and you started working on I Am, the book that you've written, right? What was your journey?
Wow. So that was unique for me, because I'm a rookie at this. This is my very first book that I have, of many that I've written. But
Right.
first, the first thing was that I had to, number one, accept the call to write the book. I knew that without accepting the call to write the book, that I would never give it the importance. I would have to, I had to acknowledge that this is something that needed to be done. It has to be done. I had to accept what I was called to do and the importance of why I was needing to do it, that caused me to hold on to my big why, and to cause me to dedicate myself and prioritize things in my life in order to get it done. So once I did that, I started making small goals. Um, I wrote down on a notepad, what am I writing about? How many chapters is this book going to be? How many maximum pages of each chapter is this book going to be? What will I name each chapter? What will be the subtopics of the chapter? I wanted to No, I wanted to have a game plan, so I wrote these things out, but then I didn't really know how to put it all together and organize it in a manner of which would make it make sense. Because hey, I didn't have no agent. I didn't have anybody helping me to write this book, and I didn't have an experienced author to critique it, to say, don't say this, do that. I work full time and I went to school full time. So that meant I had to put aside certain days of the week and certain hours of the days in the week to meet my goal. I kept a visionary board on the back door of my office space so that I can stay on point, I can stay on task. And if I saw that I was getting close to a deadline, then I would have to squeeze in extra hours um in a day, extra book hours. And there was many nights, my husband, he can tell you, there was many nights that he went to bed alone and slept almost half the night in the bed alone before I would even come to bed. And then too, I know that you say you're an atheist. I get that, I understand that, but this is what it is, and I'm saying what I'm saying. But I write effortlessly when I allow the Holy Spirit to lead and guide me. So he led and guided me through this entire book. And when the Spirit left, I stopped writing, because now there's the creator is gone. So I wanted this book to reveal every truth, to be truthful, to be honest, to be transparent. In every word of it is God breathed, even though I had to be clean in some areas. But he still allowed me to capture my personality, my charm, my wit, my charisma. Um, it's some words in here that you can tell what they mean, even though they're not written out. So in all, I had to focus and give myself a game plan to follow, a pattern to follow. So I followed other books and how they were set up, and said, okay, Holy Spirit, let's go. And here's my book. Here's my
Thank you.
whole complete book.
Thank you, Carrisa. And I really love the book cover. Do you want to tell us what is the thought behind the cover?
Wow. So my stepdaughter created this image for me. She's an amazing artist. Um, and I told her what the book was about. And so the book cover represents a woman emerging from a shattered place.
A woman?
uh, or a woman, a man. See, you see, it has no face, right? It
Right.
has no face, so you can put your face in place
Of
of
that person. Okay, very
that
nice.
person and create, and so that it creates who you are. That you're emerging from a place of brokenness. That's what the book cover represents.
Very
It
nice. That
represents my
that
book.
that you are rising, you are emerging like the
Yes,
phoenix from the brokenness that we all
yes,
feel, because there's nobody in the
yes,
world who is bereft of brokenness. But
yes.
when broken, do you choose to give up and break down? Or do you choose to persevere and break through? That
And break
defines you,
through.
that makes your journey, that builds your story, that builds
That's
your
it.
solid
That's
character,
it.
and that helps you to unleash your unlimited potential. Thank you,
Yes.
Carrisa Speed, for sharing
You're very
thoughts
welcome.
and sharing the I am the story of me. Thank you so much. I'm
Yes.
sure that
It
people
was a
who joined
pleasure.
Facebook Live are inspired and influenced by your story, and I'm sure they'll go out and buy your book, I Am the Story of Me. Before we pack up, if you want to share three life lessons that have served you well in your life, and we shall conclude with that. Three life lessons that have served you well in your life, Carissa.
3 life lessons I learned. Number one is that your heart has to be pure. Keep your heart pure because a purified heart will purify your ways. Keep your heart pure. Number two is don't hold on to unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is toxic, it is debilitating. Unforgiveness will cause you to remain in a state of blame and not take responsibility. And number three, above number one, I'm sorry, but you got to keep God first. You got to keep him first because without him, there can be and will be no you. He helps enhance who you are, the decisions that you make. He helps you to become all that you choose to be on the inside. No, he does not make your decisions. No, there's no Holy Spirit that makes your decisions. No, there's a Holy Spirit that guides you, but you ultimately have to make the choice. You do. It's your choice.
Absolutely. And the choices we make determine our consequences, and that is what we call as
Determines.
destiny. Thank you so
Awesome.
much. Thank you, Carrisa
Awesome.
Speed. Thank you for joining
Namaste.
us.
Namaste.
Yeah, thank you, and namaste once again, and take care. We will be in touch. Thank you so much for
Yes.
sharing your story so candidly. Thank you to everyone who has joined us on Facebook Live. Please
Thank
do
you
go
for
and buy
having me.
Carrisa Speed's book. It's available on Amazon. It's published by Page Publishing. Thank you, and good night, and have a good day to you, Carrisa, because
Thank you
early
so
morning for
much.
you.
It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
look